You're watching the Fox 5 Morning News at 7.
7:43 now. Certain investment mistakes could derail your financial goals. We don't want that. Chase Wilsey, now Vice President of Wilsey Asset Management, joining us now to explain. Chase, good morning.
Good morning.
This is one of the things that people fear the most getting into this, making those big mistakes when investing. What are these mistakes? Kind of jot them down for us.
All right, so the first one I'm kind of looking at here is panic selling. And, you know, this is such a prominent thing that people do. Oh, I'm not going to panic when I invest. It happens all the time. We see these corrections where the market goes down 10% and I got to get out before it goes down 20, 30%. But the problem is these corrections, these 10% pullbacks, they happen about once every 1 to 2 years. So they're very, very regular. And the problem is if you sell during these panic situations, you're locking in a 10% loss. And most of the time people don't get back in until things are better. And then your gains are not going to be very well in the long term if you keep selling and losing periods.
Yeah, that doesn't add up. It comes out to simple math at that point. Okay, second thing you're saying, timing the market.
So this I kind of think is a little bit before panic selling. So timing the market, a lot of times people, what they look at is, I better sell before the correction occurs. And when people do this, they miss out on a lot of the upside. You know, we saw this back in 2010, 2011. People a lot of times are like, oh, we're going to have another 2008, 2009. I better sell now. And then they miss out on all this upside. I mean, Peter Lynch, who's a famed money manager, he ran the Magellan Fund for Fidelity for years, did very, very well, said people have lost more money trying to time the corrections than actually weathering the corrections themselves. So timing the market is not a successful scenario in the long term.
Okay, this next one is, I'm kind of guilty because unrealistic return expectations. I think, ooh, Tesla, I'm going to buy Tesla, and then I'm going to sell it, and then I'm rich.
Well, you know, that's a great point, and it kind of comes back to timing it. And, you know, people, if you could really successfully time the market, gosh, there'd be so many billionaires out there.
Yeah.
And actually going through with these unrealistic expectations, I think if you look over the last several months, a lot of new people have gotten into investing. They're up 30, 40, 50, 60. I've heard people up 100% on some things, and they've done very, very well. The problem is that's not going to occur in the long term. You're not going to make 100% every year. As I said, everyone would be billionaires if that was the case. You need to temper those expectations and realize you're going to have losing months. You're going to have losing quarters. You're going to have losing years. And as much as people hate to hear it, the realistic return is about 8, 10% in the long term. That's a very good return. Don't expect these high returns in the long term. That's how you end up gambling and losing big time in the long run.
People kind of lacking patience a lot of times when it comes to this, right?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, you, again, have to look longer term, and longer term does not mean 3 months. Longer term means 3, 4, 5 years down the road, and looking down there is going to be how you're going to be successful, not again months at a time. It seems kind of long, especially during COVID, but it's not that long. You have to look longer term if you're going to be a successful investor.
Okay, so here's a question. Why is it a bad idea to follow the hot tips? Because everybody goes around and say, hey, I got a guy who knows a guy. He's got this hot tip for me. Buy this, buy that. Why don't we not? Why is that a bad idea?
Well, I'll say sometimes the hot tips work out. I'm not going to say it's 100% fault. I have heard, oh, you don't know what you're talking about. I've made money off a hot tip before. The problem is, more often than not, you lose out big time on the hot tips. You know, you hear all this time about, oh, there's this biotech that no one's heard about. I better buy it. Well, then they go out of business. You lose 100% of your money. The hot tips, they work until they don't, is what I'll say. And the major issue is a lot of times that people don't truly understand what they own. Once things start to fall apart, it comes back to that panic selling. If you have no idea why you invested in something, you're not going to weather the downturns. You're going to, again, panic when things fall apart.
This last little bit of advice we're going to provide for people is not just for investment mistake. This is like a life lesson. If it sounds too good to be true, Chase, it probably is.
You know, it's one of my favorite sayings, and you're so right. It does apply to other parts of life, not just investing. But in the investing part, you know, the thing I always tell people, look at where the 10-year Treasury is right now. The 10-year Treasury pays under 1% per year. Wow, that's not very good, right? Why in the world would somebody pay you, let's say, an 8% guaranteed return? How can they guarantee that when the 10-year Treasury is paying less than 1%? It makes no sense. But people, they fall victim to these, I'll say, false promises. And a lot of times, you know what that leads to? Is people getting wrapped up in things like Ponzi schemes. I mean, you look at Bernie Madoff, it's like, how is this guy producing these returns? Well, it's all made up. And it happens, unfortunately, more often than people realize. So again, if it sounds too good to be true, it probably is.
And it's the impatience that leads people to fall for those kind of things. Before we let you go,
the impatience and also the worry about the volatility as well.
Exactly. Okay, Chase, before we let you go, got any hot tips for us this morning? No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
Almost
Almost got you. Chase Wilsey, we thank you as always.
Hey, thank you.